this. Now I know. I've never run it up right to the hour before, so. Okay, I went on a little long on my last topic, but I think you guys got the gist of what I was saying anyway. So, all right, it looks like, okay, let's go back 200 years ago, roughly about 200 years ago. We had, or not us, but the United States, Canada, they had a $0 deficit. Way to go! And then, right up till about the 1981, they hit their first $1 trillion in deficit. 1981. My, how time flies. Okay? And from 1981 to I think the 1990s, during the George Bush years, they went from $1 trillion and gained another $3 trillion in deficit. That is insane. That's an insane. $1 trillion is an insane amount of money to begin with. Okay? Now, here's the deal. From the hope and change of President Barack Obama, who's been basically George Bush 2.0, he's maximized everything George Bush ever did. Like my cat. Right, Missy? That's a maximized cat right there. You just came in. You want to go back out? Okay, so anyway. In and out. Okay, so anyway, from there, okay, Obama goes, in his first 4 years, he takes it up to $8 trillion. Okay, that's a gain of $4 trillion in just 4 years. Now, it hasn't been all but 2 years. And if you're looking at this and saying, hey, wait a minute, this thing is going, woof, like this, and going much faster than they anticipated. People are saying by 2020 it's going to be at $25 trillion. No, it's going to break before that because it's impossible. Why? Because of the escalation. People are not realizing what's happening, and a lot of people get it, but they're not seeing exactly. Oh, this is why it's going up so fast. In only 2 years, from the $8 trillion deficit, we are at $18 trillion deficit. A gain, a gain of $10 trillion in 2 years. My God, that's going to be this is what printing money gets you. They're basically floating the government by printing money. That's what they're doing. And then, of course, all these wars, all that stuff. And Obama throwing out more money like a drunken sailor. They're just printing it. They're Keynesians. They don't care about tomorrow. They don't care about your grandkids not having any wealth for the next. The only way out of this is very, very painful, no matter which way you go. It's the slow bleed out. Like I said, the economy's not going to collapse under the banking system. They can't stop. They have to keep doing what they're doing. Because if they do, they have to admit all the genocide that they've caused through the wars, all the genocide they've caused through starvation, and stuff like that, and the cutting off of medical bills, or medical stuff they can't fund, and they have to admit to that. And to admit to that means they're going to go to jail, right? So they won't do it. Now the problem is you're already starting to see the slow bleed out, meaning that the slow bleed out is people losing their pensions. Cities going bankrupt. That type of thing. That's what you're seeing, okay? And when you see that, okay, and it's just getting worse and worse and worse. You're seeing mass unemployment. You're seeing mass underemployment, okay? And here's the thing. The next bailout, okay, I think the next bailout will get bankers killed left, right, center. It won't matter if they go to jail. They're better to go to jail. Now, I'm not making any threats, but I'm saying how can you have the Department of Homeland Security out there, okay, watching conspiracy theory videos to see who's the whack job and who's not, and not pick up on the fact that they should be investigating the banking system? Now, the thing is they probably know that these bankers need to go to jail. But they also realize the second you put these bankers in jail, the whole thing collapses. All $18 trillion of it. What happens to your pensions? What happens to the hospital system? What happens to... What a nightmare. Now here's the other problem. It's unsustainable. That's why they have to get us into a war. They're trying to keep this going until they can get us into a war. Russia's not playing along. China's too smart. So is Russia. They might be all in on it at some point. But, again, and you have to understand with Kissinger's order out of chaos, one of the big things is to depopulate the world. And one of the best ways to do that is through starvation. Okay? And if you look at everybody that's starving to death now, refugees like in Syria, you got 1 million there. Okay, food's now not getting to them. There was never enough to get there to them in the first place. But who created all that? Well, the IMF banking system created that through funding these wars over there. And you're starting to see people now starting to jump ship, particularly from the Obama administration. And you're even seeing, even in Israel, you're seeing, some people say questions like, whoa, yeah, we might starve out a lot of people will be killed in war. But they might figure out it's us that, manufactured this to begin with. So if we're at $18 trillion and we gained $10 trillion deficit in only 2 years. 2 years! Think about it. We went from $8 trillion to $18 trillion in 2 years. The next 2 years, whichever president, if you thought Obama's bad, whoever's in the White House the next time, which they'll probably, I could see them actually letting Rand Paul win. Okay? Because they're like, well, if the economy falls on his watch, nobody will ever vote for Tea Party or even the GOP, for example. Right now, they're sweating. They're like, oh, crap. We have pretty much rule over everything. And they can't keep the agenda. Why? Because if they don't, it just completely polarizes. They have to make Obama do it. Because then they can blame it on Obama. They can't blame it on Obama anymore. They've got control of everything after January 1st. So, open door immigration, all that stuff. Again, everything designed to collapse the country. I've been saying it for a couple of years now. Obama is the terrorist attack. He is the one, just look at his policies. It's not what he says, it's what he does. The man's a brilliant speaker. But he is shades of evil. And again, he's just the puppet. The people above him will eventually lead to the Rothschilds, Rockefellers, your George Soros, all those guys. And here's the deal. There is a way out of it. But even this way out of it is completely, it's chaotic. It's catch-22. You can suffer for decades and decades and decades, basically trying to wrangle the debt, the debt. You can't do it. You'd have to do so much austerity. Number one, you're firing your military. You're closing all the 700 some odd bases overseas. The next thing you're going to do is stop printing money. The hyperinflation will kill everybody. Just for you notice, they're calling for another 5% hike on meat prices here in Canada in the new year. Faster inflation than they've expected. Again, the meat prices are already up 12%. You know what I mean? Again, remember, we just got off $400 million trade with Russia. What, you didn't think you thought you were going to get a good deal out of it? Yeah, again, meat will drop for the short term, but then when they have too much, it drops for the short term, but after that, it's like the fuel. Yeah, right now we're near $1 a liter. Yeah, but wait till they bring the barrel of oil back up again. We're at $1 a liter when it's dropped almost $40, in the last past year, on average, okay? So a barrel of oil, we only get a slight decrease at the pumps, but yet it's, dropped XYZ. So when it goes back up to $100 a barrel, which it may go to $500 or $300 a barrel when Saudi Arabia finally, Saudi Arabia will only do this once they know they can be protected by China, which won't matter because they'll be destabilized from within anyway, but to dump the US dollar. The Saudis have been talking about it for a long time. They know what happened to Saddam. They know what happened to Gaddafi. They know what happens when you get out of the petrodollar. Petrodollar is a nail in the coffin for anybody who takes it. So that said, with all these BRICS countries, they want the security of these BRICS countries before they do this. And again, who knows when they're going to do this? But when they do this, a barrel of oil will be in whatever price they're willing to accept in anybody's currency, meaning all the people holding U.S. treasuries, those U.S. treasuries flood back to the United States, increasing hyperinflation beyond belief. A loaf of bread will be about $10,000. You laugh, but we're talking an $18 trillion deficit. That money isn't all in the country. That's what you need to understand. $10 trillion that they printed is out there, there's about 4 or 5 trillion of it out there somewhere. Maybe more. Who knows? Nobody knows. There might be 200 trillion all in if you add up everything. Nobody knows. But we know that we gained a $10 trillion deficit. That is going to shake the core of the earth. The magnitude people can't imagine. So how do you get out of it? Well, Iceland solution. But you have to take it a step further. Number one, You forgive the debt. Yeah, all $18 trillion of it. But that puts you back to the Stone Age overnight, bang. Very short-term pain, but extremely painful. Hospitals will be closed. Roads will not be paved. There will be no standing military. There will be no... You basically get rid of everything overnight. You fire the government is what you do. And you start over. Now, right away, you have to print a new currency. And you have to start backing it with something. Okay, because if you just print a new currency, it'll have even less value than the currency you're replacing. Right? So you see the magnitude of how insolvent this is. There's no way they can go. So what do you do? Well, there is currency outside paper currency and digital currency. And I'm not talking gold and silver. No. Most people can't afford that. It's impractical. And to spend it even in a post-collapse area, even if we did the Iceland solution and put the corrupt politicians and bankers in jail, start with the Rothschilds, work your way down, and get every politician that was in on it, Rockefellers, Rothschilds, all the Soros groups, get them all, get them all. And just work your way down. And again, you can start with Joe Biden's testimony of, get them on crimes against humanity. One charge, that's all you got to do. Unfortunately, we don't have brave law enforcement military. We keep hearing about them, but they'll go after the street thug, they'll go after, the ISIS guys. Yeah, but why don't you go after the real terrorists on the earth? Like the banking system. Now, again, they probably know this, but this is the thing. It's insolvent. The blowback and nobody knows exactly what would happen if tomorrow currency had zero value. Because it already has zero value. It's just people are still believing in it. That's the illusion. So what other currencies can you use? Well, number one, food. Food is going to be the biggest currency. Not my cat. Says, I don't like that idea. Hey? Okay, Gazoo, here, you recommend some. What you need to do is stock up on cat treats. And lots of cat treats. Okay, maybe not cat treats, but you could, gardening will be valuable skills to have in a collapse. Why? Because food becomes priority. Water, clean water, ways to make clean water. Energy, ways to make energy. That's where the money is. Basically, you have to think like somebody from the 1800s. You have to create people created a lot of stuff in the 1800s. Okay, so you have to create a lot of stuff that's practical use and competitively priced and can be bartered and traded for whatever. Bullets are going to be excellent currency in a kind of collapse, So again, even if you forgive the debt, how do you pay anybody? What do you replace it with? This is the thing. So Obama's doing his job because they are going to replace the debt with probably an IMF currency, the one world currency. That's always been the plan. They haven't deviated for that. And it will come out overnight. The problem is the second you are under the IMF, you are under the United Nations. Meaning this is why the United Nations is now talking about, you got Ban Ki-moon out there saying, hey, you know what, the United States needs to basically disarm the people and the police. What are they planning? That's your global governance. That's you have your one world banking system, the IMF, Rothschild owned, and you have your, basically United Nations. Pretty much can go back to the Rockefellers and Rothschilds. You got Maurice Stroud in there. Agenda 21 is pretty much, we're seeing it unfold in front of our eyes. The elites still have the upper hand. The problem is they're not going to be able to pull it off. Why? Because the last thing they're going to need to do, and at this point they don't even really care about the internet. They don't really care that there's people like me out there talking about this stuff because they've already got control. What are we going to do, right? Until we start fighting back, they won't care about freedom of speech or anything because they've got the big stuff. They got the bigger fish. You know what I mean? Thing is what does it mean for people? The people they're going to fight back against is not the people that are out there protesting. Yeah, they'll get some cops to go rough them up. Again, you got this small group of people here, protected by a group of people here to protect against all these people. So they don't mind people out in the middle of New York City or Timbuktu or even in Ottawa, protesting. They don't care about that. Why? Because that doesn't do anything to them. You want to burn down buildings, it's your loss. You know what I mean? They don't care. They think you deserve this. Those aren't the people that they're scared of. The people they're scared of is the people that get up in the morning and say, hey, you know what? I'm going to grow my own food. I'm going to create my own energy. Have you wondered why we don't have sustainable energy? You know what I mean? Again, solar panels. Okay, look. This is why green energy, it doesn't really work. Got a solar panel on an almost windless day. Okay, so number one today, you're not going to get any energy out of a windmill, and you're not going to get very much energy out of a solar panel today. And it's going to be like this for the next 4 months, pretty much. Yeah, so you see what I mean? They're not worried about that stuff because it's not efficient. But notice how they closed all the hydro dams. Notice how, again, I'm not a big fan of nuclear power, but nuclear power has the best safety record out of all of them. But when something goes wrong, it goes majorly wrong. But they could use thorium-powered reactors. They could use all kinds of stuff. And, thorium is much safer and cheaper. Maybe not quite as energy efficient, but, it's better than uranium. So they could change the paradigm overnight if they want. Thing is they don't want you to. Those are the people they wage war against. Those are the people that they either regulate out of business, stomp the ideas, and or basically knock you off if you have too good of an idea. So that's who they're scared of. They're scared of people that can basically make the car that gets 1,000 miles to the liter, not gallon. They're afraid of that guy. They're afraid of the one that creates the car that runs on water. And yes, the Russians right now are working on, and we're not talking hydrogen, they're actually getting fuel out of water. I'm not exactly sure how this process works. Apparently it's not economical yet, but at one point getting oil out of sand wasn't economical either. You know what I mean? So when the technology changes, they can do things, when they're motivated, they can do things. So this is the big one, energy, and the other thing will be rebel currencies, local currencies. I mean, heck, here's the thing that people don't get, the tally stick. The tally stick is, I think, the longest running currency in history, about a 700-year run. And it was basically a stick, and you put notches in it, and you cut the stick in half, and you gave one half to your creditor, and one half to the loanee, whatever. So one, and then whenever the debt was repaid, usually through labor or whatever, or goods and services, you would get the other tally stick, and then you would have full payment. Basically, same idea as paper money, with the idea of using sticks that you cut in half. And it made it hard to counterfeit them and everything. So people could go back to a tally stick system. If they believe it's currency, it's fair enough. All it really is saying, okay, well, rather than try to figure out how many loaves of bread you're going to pay for an ox, here, take the tally stick. I figure maybe 75 hours worth of labor will cover the ox. And when you cover that, you give me back the tally stick, that's payment in full. Very simple system, almost impossible to counterfeit. Maybe not nowadays, but you see guys out there with their little lathe, and bandsaws cutting out these sticks saying, yeah, I made $800,000 today in sticks. But you get the idea. You could trade in marbles. Why? Marbles are made out of glass. Glass lasts forever. You can use marbles to hunt if you got a good slingshot. It's currency is what people believe in. If I say, hey, would you like $1 million? Of course everybody's going to say, yeah, in Mexican pesos. You'd be like, well, it's like $10. Or whatever it would be. It'd be hardly worthwhile. It wouldn't even be worth the gas to go get it exchanged. So why is Mexican currency, which isn't backed by anything, worth more than U.S. currency, which isn't backed by anything? Because people believe it. They're used to trading in that paradigm. Now, the people that, and I agree with Greg Manarino on this, he says, when this collapse occurs, again, even if they forgive the debt, it's still, you have to come up with a new currency. People are going to die in the, I have nothing against people hoarding gold and silver. If you can afford it, sure. Land is, I think, if you have gold and land, you can leverage one against the other. But I think the people with food are going to make out the best. Because think about it this way. It takes 4 months to grow a crop from when you can grow it. And right now, I can't put seeds in the ground very easily. Okay? So think about that. That's one. Number two, a food shortage leads to mass chaos. People will be clubbing each other over the head to eat people. Yeah. Think of like the Road kind of scenario if you've ever seen that movie. Crazy movie, but I think it kind of hits the nail on the head on a lot of... It doesn't really matter what the chaos is or what sparked it. It's how people are going to have to live with it. And the thing is the government, again, and the people that, the yes men that just follow orders, they're always going to be there. There's always going to be somebody... I mean, again, the Nazi SS didn't see themselves as evil. They didn't see themselves as evil. They were doing a job. You know what I mean? And that's the thing. You might, you can look at it in hindsight, but hey, you know what? When people are in a desperate situation, such as a world war, they're going to do things that they wouldn't normally do. Things that most people would probably vow that they would never do. So what are they going to do when $18 trillion comes crashing down? And it's not going to be $18 trillion. Again, let's add this up. 200 years ago, we were at the Americans were at zero. And again, all the economies are linked through the IMF pretty much, except for the Russians and the Chinese, which are basically ditching the U.S. dollar. Now, here in Canada, we actually have a leg up on the Americans big time. Why? We have our own currency. And yes, we are playing nice with it. We're playing both sides of the fence right now. We're playing, because my prime minister, you call him a globalist? Yes, he is. And that's the key. He's a globalist. He's not a communist. He's a globalist, which, yeah, there are comparable things in there. He's a fascist, what do you call it? We're socialist fascist here. We have, nobody would consider this a conservative country. You have to understand, most people are extremely left-wing here. So, yeah, with the government we have, they consider them very left-wing, but they're as center of the road as the Liberals Party was, except for the little right-leaning, slightly right-leaning. They're about as moderate as you can get. Love them or hate them. And, I mean, the numbers reflect that. I mean, again, a steady growing economy since 2004 or whatever. Not by much, just a hug, hugging the line, and in 2008, whatever. But we do have an independent currency, which is an advantage, meaning when the U.S. currency fails, the only thing we lose is basically what U.S. treasuries we have, which is a big loss for us. So what Canada can do, if we see this coming, is start to spend our U.S. treasuries, like China. China just went out and built mega cities that nobody lives in. Oh, my battery's going down. Oh, crap. But anyway, I'll wrap this up quick. So China's building these mega cities that nobody lives in, okay, which is kind of funny, just so they could get rid of that U.S. debt. Okay, which also benefits the U.S. If people take their treasuries and spend it, then they don't have to worry about it anymore, right? But the thing is when people have all these treasuries and they send them back to the States, I mean, again, overnight, you're probably talking about an extra $10 trillion to $70 trillion, $200 trillion. A $200 trillion deficit overnight. Again, the printing money is the worst thing you could do. You stop printing money, things collapse. There's no way out of this. But here in Canada or other countries, they can take their currency and stay, create domestically, because people will still trade in your currency. I mean, I see in about 10, 15, 20 years' time, providing we don't have a thermonuclear war, which, is being propagated. Right now, the United States is pretty much isolated. You have all the BRICS nations are joining China, India, Iran, and Russia, and they're even Japan and China are working together on a lot of things. At some point, and they've got problems. They're close to a war themselves. But the thing is that people are like, well, we don't want to go through another war. So here we are, in Canada, we basically are saying, okay, well, we're going to start. We have a clearinghouse for to hold Chinese treasury, like the Chinese dollar. We have a clearinghouse here now. They're opening up Africa, everybody. Like, we're getting rid of the U.S. dollar. So if you're an American, thing is what currency are you going to trade in? Nobody wants to do business with you. Why? Because your government basically screwed you. The good news is that even if it all collapses, at that point, we get to mold a society. But the problem is like revolutions or resets or anything like that. Reset's better than revolution, but I think the time for reset it's long gone. It's long gone. It's going to have to ride it out is more what's going to happen. Now, that said, the world elites will be killed off in the droves. In the droves. Again, you got the Committee of 300. I'm not making any threats, but again, they've screwed way too many people over stealing their wealth. And I'm not talking, the guy with $50 in his, or even a fat couple thousand, even $1 million in his bank account. I'm talking about the people, that are already in this, that launder money mobsters saying, okay, well, you took $10 million from me, grab the $130,000 under the pillow and go and hire the hitman. Kill this guy, make it painful, make it public, And you'll be able to tell which are mob hits from government hits. The government hits will be most likely look like suicides. These will be CIA stuff. People, for example, jumping off floors, 33rd floors and stuff like that. Or, shooting themselves in the back of the head with a nail gun or slitting their own throats, such as you're seeing with the banking suicides, right? Some of them might be legit suicides, but dead men tell no tales, right? So those people will be sacrificed by those type of people. But then you're going to get what I call the hellhounds, the spooks with a conscience, saying, well, these people never go to jail. Next thing you know, House of Rothschilds gets blown up. A gas line went. Wonder, it must have been a freak accident. Car accidents. Jamie Dimon goes off the road in a sports car type of thing. You know what I mean? Again, I'm not making any threats against these people, but people know who screwed everybody over. the thing about these elites, they think that they could be protected so well that they're insane. And some of them are starting to say, hey, you know what? This is why I think Chuck Hagel and guys like that are jumping ship. Of the Obama administration, like they're just too noticeable. It's like, okay, well, they're going to blame Obama, but they're going to blame us. And again, I want to jump ship before they, when you start to see people disappearing, when you start to see and you're starting to see some of it, but when you start to see it like on a really noticeable, where that, okay, where is everybody? Why are all these people just dropping dead all of a sudden? Then it's about to hit the fan. Again, will it be good for humanity? Well, number one, it gets rid of the slave system. The other downside is that what comes in after the United States collapse. Remember, the United States is being designed to collapse. This is again, nationalism and sovereign nations are the enemy of communism. The United Nations is very all over that. You have almost every world leader that's in power is a huge fan of the United Nations. Obama, the international community, they think a one-world government is going to work, but it's not going to work. A one-world military is not going to work. It's not big enough. NATO is not big enough to take on the people of the world. The only way they can do it is if they just, slaughter people outright. But then there's another problem with that. Once they do that, there is no serviceman or his family that will not be killed off. Look at how the cartels work in places like Mexico. You could be a law enforcement officer, and if you're honest, guess what happens to you and your family? You know what I mean? That type of thing. So you have all these people that work for the DHS. I demonize the DHS because they're because I know what they're for. You know what I mean? I know what they're for. They're domestic. These are the SS. That's what they are. Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of people that work for the DHS that are good-natured and good-hearted, and actually want to curb terrorism and stuff like that. But the thing is, they don't even look that. Okay, well, the terrorism is coming from the CIA mostly. Like the CIA props these guys up. Well, who's paying the CIA? Better start looking at those bankers. Again, they'll go after the jihadist or the patriot or the cartels. Sure, that's part of your job, and you got to do that. But they ignore the banking cartel, the banking cabal. They ignore the unconstitutional politicians. That they have grounds and legal authority and cause to go and arrest, and they won't do it. Now, as soon as they do it, well, then it's a mountain climber effect. One falls, they all fall, and of course, that fall is going to hurt everybody big time. So it's. But then, if they get, if they have to go and quail the unrest, again, my thing is that when the United Nations steps in, that's when you're going to see the shooting start. And at first, it will be innocent, but it's mission creep. It's when you have a United Nations blue helmet on every corner, or UN vehicles patrolling all over the place. At first, nobody will do anything. And first, because it'll be a Trojan horse. But then they'll start rounding people up, calling everybody's a terrorist now anyway. Again, it's only when people, like again, Alex Jones is having his conversation with people. What's your line in the sand? Well, the thing is you have to understand we're already, with the exception of mass killings, we're already in the same situation that the Soviets were in. We're ripe for a Bolshevik revolution. The thing is they did it a little different, where they pulled people out in the street and just shot them, and made people starve to death until they reverted to cannibalism and stuff like that. We're not there yet, sure, but the system is in place for it. This is where the communists failed. This is where Mao Zedong, well, he didn't really fail. He just died off. You know what I mean? Look, you got China paying off the debt of North Korea, or a good proportion of North Korea's debt, and paying a good proportion of Cuba's debt. That'll serve Russia very well. But guess what? Those people that live there, the people in North Korea, they're going to be like that for the rest of their lives. It's never going to change in North Korea until you kill everybody there. You can't save anybody there. They're brainwashed. It's sad, but, either you let them be or you have to wipe them out, right? So what happens to the United States when we get to a North Korean kind of thing where people are reverting to cannibalism and stuff like that? And how do they do that? Well, it's because they have a guard on every corner, checking papers. In North Korea, there you could see the social engineering here, where they want you to tattle on people. In North Korea, every 2 weeks you have to go and to an authority and tell them about a person that did something wrong and something you did wrong. What kind of brainwashing, what kind of fear do people live under to be able to accept that? And people will accept anything. It's a very, very rare people rise up and overthrow, dictators and communists. And communism, Agenda 21, and thermonuclear war are the top biggest 3 threats to humanity right now. And the thing is the elites, they think they're going to get away with this time. Problem is there's too many people in the know. And the problem is most of the people that are going to turn on him are the very people. It's going to be a coup. It's going to be a huge coup. Thing is look, Obama, he's a puppet. But it's the banking system, and trust me, the people that were, the people that, go after Obama and stuff like that, and I slag him all the time too, okay, you have to realize he is following orders. He is following orders. He's doing his divide and conquer. That's what he was hired to do, okay? Now, who's he working for? That's who you need to. That's where the people in the CIA, the DHS, the FBI, the ones that what I will refer to as the hellhounds are going to come out, call them spooks with a conscience or spies or whatever you want to refer to them as. These are the people that know who pulls the strings. Again, the Kissinger types. These guys are going to kick off soon, and same like David Rockefeller and stuff like that. These guys are going to kick off within the next decade or so. Rockefeller probably even sooner because he's 100 years old pretty much. But even at that, people, once they are working in a system, I mean, look how many Nazis did turn against the system. Look at how many SS actually, and it wasn't a lot of them, but actually tried to get, save Jews and stuff like that during the Holocaust. There are a handful that will be in the system, and they'll have to work in the system to infiltrate the system, or to give intelligence. You can call them double agents, whatever you want to refer to them as. It doesn't matter. But at the end of the day, when people know who did it to them, at some point, this is a bad time in history to be a part of a royal family. It is a bad time in history. Why? Because, again, the difference between now and 40 years ago, 100 years ago, 70 years ago, whatever, World War I, World War II, is that people know why it's being engineered. The masses are dumbed down. The masses aren't paying attention yet, but you don't need the masses. The Revolutionary War that was fought in the States was only fought by a handful of people. And they won, Thing is you were lucky. Those people had good merit. They had good standing. They wanted a freer country. Look, George Washington, okay, which as a Canadian, he declared war on my country, but he did have some good things for his country, that, the Constitution and stuff like that, and in return we went and burnt the White House down. Sorry about that. That's why it's white now. They painted it after we burnt it. It used to be known as the Black House, or the barbecue place. I'm sorry, I'm kidding you. Brought our Canadian bacon down there and had barbecue. Bygones are bygones. But anyway, thing is that George Washington, he was already an elite. He was already a wealthy business owner. He gave that up to have liberty. Nowadays, I could see more people, coming to that idea. Very small, more people in the sense of that, because we can get the information. But there's a lot of people that are probably going to go the opposite way. They're going to go towards tyranny. It's like in a WROL type of thing without rule of law, people are going to have nobody policing them. You're going to have your tyrants who are going to come up. That's where you get your cartels. Somebody put it well. He says, the mobsters in a collapse are going to make like bandits. First off, everybody's daughter is going to become a prostitute because that's how you're going to pay for food. It's those type of things. Everybody, and again, this is a part of the plan of the Committee of 300, their goals. They have quite a few goals. The communists had 61 things, which plays right into Agenda 21. It's just they keep refining it. It's the same thing. It's these are control freaks, right? But the thing is with one of the things they want is either everybody whacked out on drugs, okay, which mission accomplished there, or people to starve to death. That's one of the major things for depopulation. Just let people starve to death. If they can't starve to death fast enough, get into a war. And they're only going to get into war if it's worth it for them to steal the resources. Otherwise, they don't bother attacking you. They'll just let the people starve there. So after that, and if you look at the way the elites are always talking, again, how everybody has to, watch their, their eco footprint. Meanwhile, these people, they have 10 jets, 50 houses. You know what I mean? They're telling you to watch how many pop cans you throw in the garbage when they're doing that. DiCaprio comes to mind right now. His 6 luxury, yachts that could house a family of 59. Here he is telling you something that burns, has 2 huge diesel power plants in it. They're not even engines; they're power plants. That can cruise this thing at probably 100 gallons an hour. Telling you to, we got to take more care of the earth. Yeah, okay, hypocrisy. I mean, and then of course you got Desmond the Rothschild. Talking about plastic and stuff like that. I'm not saying they don't bring up some valid points, but here's the thing. Aren't you guys in control of the petroleum industry and you're worried about plastic? You guys are creating the stuff. You want to lower your eco footprint? How about you, the Rockefellers, all those, they're all hypocrites, right? They're all hypocrites. I think everybody gets that. But the thing is that these are the people that are in control. Now the thing is will they remain in control? Again, we're talking what? $10 trillion in 2 years. So in the next 2 years, you're probably going to see probably another 10 to 30 trillion. Who knows? It's not going down, it's going up. You know, Obama's saying the debt doesn't raise the debt. But again, if you teach people 2 plus 2 make 5, they'll believe this lunacy. What people are noticing and starting to notice, and it makes the world is ripe for revolution on this too, is that every time they print, people's wealth, it doesn't matter if they raise the minimum wage, if a loaf of bread is $75, you know what I mean? It doesn't matter, you know, because the wages aren't keeping up to the inflation anyway. You know, the wages are high enough, it's the inflation is too high, the cost of living is too high, the taxes are too high. Progressive taxes tells you everything. This is a Karl Marx theory. You know, use a progressive tax to tax people from their wealth, basically get them off their land. Raise property taxes to the point where people can't own houses. They don't want you to own houses. They want you to live in a box in a designated area, such as like Agenda 21, and we're seeing it. You know, and the thing is people aren't catching on to what's going on. Slowly they are, but again, the revolution will be fought by a handful of people, and most likely people from within the government that will probably overthrow the dictatorships that are going on. And it's only going to happen if mass arrests don't happen. And I'm not making any threats, but I'm just saying, hey, look, if mass arrests don't happen, mass casualties are going to be taken on all sides. The elites, well, I mean, you knock one of them off, there goes a diabolical, evil plan. You know what I mean? At first, because again, you have to understand too, the difference now, like for example, think of all the patriots that shot redcoats and redcoats that shot patriots. These are just common men, okay? Now they won a war, okay, in the 1776 they won that war, sure, but they killed a lot of guys, like those the guys that were following orders on this side and the guys that are following orders on this side, whether they were fighting for liberty or fighting for a monarchy, it didn't really matter. These are the common people. They will fight. This is the same as the DHS shooting citizens and the patriots firing back at the DHS. That's not where the war is going to be won. Where the war is going to be won, again, is going to be at the top levels. The people. This is why you send snipers after. And again, I'm not calling for violence, but this is what's going to happen. This is why you snipe out world leaders. This is why you blow up their cars and cut their brake lines and stuff like that. This is why the espionage. It's the spies that make this happen. This is why the patriots haven't come out shooting yet. They already know that they've lost their liberty, that the Constitution has been pretty much trampled. What they're waiting for is that last reign of hope, which will come, of people basically from within the system to overthrow it. Now, hopefully it will come peacefully, but it can't come peacefully at this point. Again, the people, the prosecutors, they know as soon as they start prosecuting bankers, the world will collapse. They know this. The rest of the world is preparing for that. That's what all these Chinese deals, the Chinese free trade zones are about, is to shield themselves from the U.S. collapse. That's why Canada's making... Look, my Prime Minister has the trophy for Statesman of the Year, basically flying from country to country to, he's never home. He's always out there making trade deals. Now, as a globalist, that's his job, I don't agree with it. I don't like globalism because it gives up our sovereignty. But if you knew a collapse was coming, and you ask Prime Minister Harper directly on Obama's policies, he won't comment on them. He doesn't comment on them. He'll just give you that kind of smirk, well, I don't like to comment on that. That's his exact words. So what's he telling you? That doesn't sound like a man who has faith into the neighbor to the south of us. Yeah, you might cat. You won't go outside. It's snowing out there. You're too fat to go outside anyway. Okay, well, outside you go. So anyway, I guess I'll have to wrap this up. In or out? In or out? Move it. Yeah. Okay, there you go. He's like, don't kick me in the ass. He's coming back in. You got enough? Coming in? Okay, watch your tail. Watch it. I didn't hear him meow. I guess I didn't get his tail. So anyway, point is that it's going to be, probably like a bodyguard or a security guard. Again, that's going to knock off these elites. Because you can only pay people so well, and then at some point it becomes, again, what are you going to pay them in? You know what I mean? Yeah, there's always going to be people that will follow orders, but at some point a coup is inevitable. Especially the way they're doing it is just so openly, George Bush was covert, Obama's overt. But at the end of the day, again, and I think in 2015, all the price hikes that they're calling for, and again, the media is bipolar. Oh, there's a recovery. But, sales aren't doing good, and I think there's going to be a lot of stores that after this Christmas season, or that's it, they're done, they're gone, But the thing is, like the people will reject the system by getting outside the system. There's where the crackdown, again, that's the people they really want to wage war on. They want to wage war on the people that work under, under the black market, that type of thing. Why? Because people, again, people prosper more without socialism than they do with socialism. Why? Think about it this way. You made $100 and you get to keep that $100 and there's no middleman in between. And considering here in Canada, under the Commerce of Canada Act, Article 40, which Pierre Elliott Trudeau did this, said that you cannot be separated from your wealth for the greater good, or the Queen. This was basically towards the Queen because the Queen wanted to put more taxes in Canada, which, why are we paying her anything? And the fact that it's, this is why you don't hear it in Parliament, but it's actually illegal for anybody to call for the overthrow of the Queen. I'm like, then that's not a democracy, that's, you know what I mean? That's definitely not democracy, that's for sure. I like the idea of the Swiss direct democracy idea. It's not an absolute. Again, I agree with Churchill, it's the worst form of government, but it's the best one we got. Or a constitutional republic decided by the people what, laws we should have. The people should decide the laws. Right now, the people don't decide the laws. It's a handful of people that make decisions for us because we're too stupid to think for ourselves or something like that. So, at the end of it, again, I don't know how much, again, think about it, 2 years down is going to be much way. Hey, welcome. My last video cut off. I guess I can only get an hour at a time on this. Now I know. I've never run it up right to the hour before, so. Okay. I went on a little long on my last topic, but I think you guys got the gist of what I was saying anyway. So, all right. It looks like, okay, let's go back 200 years ago, roughly about 200 years ago. We had, not us, but the United States, I'm in Canada, they had a $0 deficit. Way to go! And then, right up till about the 1981, they hit their first $1 trillion in deficit. 1981. My, how time flies. Okay? Then from 1981 to I think the 1990s, during the George Bush years, they went from $1 trillion and gained another $3 trillion in deficit. That is insane. That's an insane. $1 trillion is an insane amount of money to begin with. Okay? Now, here's the deal. From the hope and change of President Barack Obama, who's been basically George Bush 2.0, he's maximized everything George Bush ever did. Like my cat. Right, Missy? That's a maximized cat right there. You just came in. You want to go back out? Okay, so anyway. In and there. Okay, so anyway, from there, okay, Obama goes, in his first 4 years, he takes it up to $8 trillion. Okay, that's a gain of $4 trillion in just 4 years. Now, it hasn't been all but 2 years. And if you're looking at this and saying, hey, wait a minute, this thing is going woof, like this, and going much faster than they anticipated. I mean, people are saying by 2020 it's going to be at $25 trillion. No, it's going to break before that because it's impossible. Why? Because of the escalation. People are not realizing what's happening, and like a lot of people get it, but they're not seeing exactly. Oh, this is why it's going up so fast. In only 2 years, from the $8 trillion deficit, we are at $18 trillion deficit. A gain, like a gain of $10 trillion in 2 years. My God, that's going to be like, this is what printing money gets you. They're basically floating the government by printing money. That's what they're doing. And then, of course, all these wars, all that stuff. And Obama throwing out more money like a drunken sailor. They're just printing it. They're Keynesians. They don't care about tomorrow. They don't care about your grandkids not having any wealth for the next. The only way out of this is very, very painful, no matter which way you go. It's the slow bleed out. Like I said, the economy's not going to collapse under the banking system. They can't stop. They have to keep doing what they're doing. Because if they do, they have to admit all the genocide that they've caused through the wars, all the genocide they've caused through starvation, and stuff like that, and the cutting off of medical bills, or medical stuff they can't fund, and they have to admit to that. And to admit to that means they're going to go to jail, right? So they won't do it. Now the problem is you're already starting to see the slow bleed out, meaning that the slow bleed out is people losing their pensions. Cities going bankrupt, that type of thing. That's what you're seeing, okay? And when you see that, okay, and it's just getting worse and worse and worse. You're seeing mass unemployment. You're seeing mass underemployment, okay? And here's the thing. The next bailout, okay, I think the next bailout will get bankers killed left, right, center. It won't matter if they go to jail. They're better to go to jail. And I'm not making any threats, but I'm saying how can you have the Department of Homeland Security out there, okay, watching conspiracy theory videos to see who's the whack job and who's not, and not pick up on the fact that they should be investigating the banking system? Now, the thing is they probably know that these bankers need to go to jail. But they also realize the second you put these bankers in jail, the whole thing collapses. All $18 trillion of it. What happens to your pensions? What happens to the hospital system? What happens to... What a nightmare. Now here's the other problem. It's unsustainable. That's why they have to get us into a war. They're trying to keep this going until they can get us into a war. Russia's not playing along. China's too smart. So is Russia. They might be all in on it at some point. But, again, and you have to understand with Kissinger's order out of chaos, one of the big things is to depopulate the world. And one of the best ways to do that is through starvation. Okay? And if you look at everybody that's starving to death now, refugees like in Syria, you got 1 million there. Okay, food's now not getting to them. There was never enough to get there to them in the first place. But who created all that? Well, the IMF banking system created that through funding these wars over there. And you're starting to see people now starting to jump ship, particularly from the Obama administration. And you're even seeing, even in Israel, you're seeing, some people say questions like, "Whoa, yeah, we might starve out a lot of people. A lot of people will be killed in war, but they might figure out it's us that manufactured this to begin with." So if we're at $18 trillion and we gained $10 trillion deficit in only 2 years. 2 years. Think about it. We went from $8 trillion to $18 trillion in 2 years. The next 2 years, whichever president, if you thought Obama's bad, whoever's in the White House the next time, which they'll probably, I could see them actually letting Rand Paul